My name is Anthony James, and I love the German Netflix show Dark. I love it so much that I started a YouTube channel to talk about it. From the start, I've been told that the Dark train won't last forever, and if I want to continue to grow on YouTube, I need to move on. Well, you know what? I don't want to move on. This show is worth more. It's worth more theories, more analysis, deconstruction, and discussion. So if you're not ready to move on either, then you're in the right place. Right here on Dark Discussions. Hello, and welcome to Dark Discussions. I'm Origin Anthony James, your host. Thanks for joining me. This week, we were due to have a conversation with my mother, all about Dark. She's seen it, she can't remember quite much about it, but it's pretty funny talking to her about it. You voted for it on the poll. Unfortunately, not going to happen this week. My mother can't do it this week. I'm sorry, guys. Schedules and all this sort of thing. It's going to happen next week. I'm going to make her come around. I'm thinking about filming it socially distanced in the garden. So we're going to actually have her next to me. I think she's coming around to the idea of having her face on the screen. So that'll be great next week. Unfortunately, because of that, I had to look at the poll and decide, what am I going to do this week? So as you know, you guys can go to @HeyAnthonyJames and vote on the poll for next week's episode. Now, unfortunately, this week, the winning one is going to be waiting until next week. So this week, there won't be a poll. This week, there's no point in voting because I'm definitely doing the conversation with my mum next week. However, next week the poll will be back, so if you want to have a suggestion of yours put onto the poll, you can donate to the tip jar in the description. If not, you can just try your hand, give it, and tell me what you would like to see in the comments. If I really like it, I might put it on myself. So, this week, I was left with a conundrum. Do I do 1899 Theories and News, which was the second place in the poll? Or do I do one of the other two? Parallels to Lost, Parallels to Westworld. So, as you know, in the past, whenever the winner isn't definite, there was a draw in the past, I sort of get to choose myself. This week, we are going to get the winning vote. Not this week, though. Right, so I decided that I was going to do Parallels to Lost. I know, 1899 definitely got more, but I think for the time being, I'm going to make my 1899 video separately. So you still are going to get that video. I'm just going to put it up either this week or next week, and we're going to go through all the 1899 news. Now, look out for that video, because I've noticed something that Baron Odor said in an interview about the show that I think actually means we can start to theorize about what could happen in the show. And you know me, I started out on YouTube theorizing. So I want to try and theorize about 1899. We've got plenty of time to think about it. Hopefully we'll get extra little nuggets as we go, but lots to talk about there. So catch that hopefully next week. Today, though, we're looking at the Parallels to Lost. Now, I know. A lot of you are sitting there thinking, Lost? Didn't that end terribly? Wasn't everyone disappointed with the ending? Well, a lot of people were. I have to say, I can understand the issues. Don't get me wrong. I can understand the issues. Don't unsubscribe because I like Lost, okay? Lost is a mystery show which had a brilliant setup that lasted for 6 seasons total, but in my mind, 2 or 3 brilliant seasons. And then, as we know, there's been an interview with Damon Lindelof, who's one of the creators, recently, where he said that he wanted to end after 3 seasons. The plan in his mind was to do that, but the TV channel asked for more, so they had to go to 6. It was still unprecedented, actually, for Lost to end at 6. They obviously, you never finish a show if it's getting viewers. That's what used to be the old days thinking. If a show's getting viewers, you do not end the show. Well, Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, who's the other creator, they managed to convince them to let them only have 6. So they managed to... You might say that the train fell off the rails. They managed to sort of just get it back on and kind of finish the story, okay? So, yes, they went in directions they didn't mean to. Yes, they were kind of making it up as they went along, as if every show doesn't. On that, actually, recently, Baron Bodor put on his Instagram a picture of it looks like an 1800s, I'm sure you can tell me what it is, people from Germany, on a horse, and it said, you don't want to know what the other ending of Dark was. Now, a lot of people put that across as a joke, but the thing is, I've actually seen interviews of him in the past where him and Jon Chafri said they changed where season 2 and 3 were going. They changed where the show was going after season 1. They changed their whole idea. So they did change what they were doing. So it would be really cool one day to see where they were gonna go. I don't take that as a joke. I take it, obviously he's trying to get a laugh, but I take it as a real thing on his Instagram. They did have another ending because they've said as much themselves. So anyway, Lost was making it up as they went along, right? So therefore it led them, they're planning on 3 seasons. They didn't quite get 3. In my mind, though, Lost and Dark are twins. Okay? And I'm not talking like twins like the Olsen twins. I'm not talking like twins like the 2 dark matter balls, one in the future, one in the past. I'm talking twins like, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. Okay? Dark to me is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Lost is Danny DeVito. Maybe it had all the potential, but it didn't live up to it. And to be honest with you, at the end, certain parts of it, just, no. Nowhere near Arnold Schwarzenegger that is Dark. Having said that, I still love Lost. There's at least 5 episodes of the show that I would go back and rewatch happily and really love it. To be honest with you, Lost is a part of my upbringing, and it really, really sort of in my formative years as a teenager, this show was like a drug to me. Like the mysteries, wanting to know where they were. Like I remember the waiting between seasons. I couldn't wait. Like this was one of my first TV shows that I properly, was addicted to. Now, I was personally at the time, I did enjoy where it went. Like I was like everyone else, a bit let down by certain reveals, or how certain reveals took ages to happen, or like massive things. For example, like the polar bear. We always talk about the polar bear. Now, the polar bear was explained, but it was explained as a byproduct of other explanations. It was never actually. It was unfulfilling because it was left too long, and when it actually was explained, it was like, oh, because they're doing tests on animals. But that came like 5 years later, So Baron Bodor has also talked about that with Lost. Baron Bodor and Jon Chafri are actually big fans of Lost, especially the first 3 seasons. And they said that, for example, if Baron Bodor was directing Lost, he would have started season 2 with the polar bear, like what's going on and stuff. So they waited too long. That's something that Dark doesn't do. Dark doesn't wait to let you know surprises. Like they always have big reveals all the time. Anyway, so what I thought I would do the top 10, or not even top 10, just 10 similarities between Lost and Dark. Because I've only had a day or two to get this together because my mom couldn't do this week. It means that I've had to, Donnie, I'm sorry, I couldn't go back and rewatch the whole of Lost. But from my own memory / what I've done, a bit of research as well, I've got 10 things that I think are really cool parallels between Lost and Dark. All right, that was a huge intro, guys. Sorry, but I'm sure you didn't mind me talking about the whole Lost Dark situation. Anyway, so number 1, the hatch and the bunker. So one of the first things you think about when you think of Lost, especially early Lost, is the hatch that they find, and you have no idea. That was one of the first big mysteries. You have no idea what this hatch is. And they spent time digging it out, and then finally, at the end of season 1, they blew it up with dynamite. And I should say, spoilers. And inside was Desmond Hume, my favorite character. Desmond Hume was down there in a really mysterious little living quarters, clicking a button with entered numbers in every 108 minutes to save the world or something like that. It was a mystery. So Dark has its own bunker. Less of a mystery, Dark's bunker. Dark's bunker is actually shown. The very first thing we see in the show, pretty much, is Dark's bunker, where we see it in the future with all the pictures on the wall. We also have it in the 80s, obviously. We see that in the first episode too. We don't really know it's the bunker in the first episode, but we know it's there. So there was definitely less mystery around the bunker in Dark. Having said that, it was a huge focal point of the show. There was a huge amount of even time travel, science fiction-y madness going on in there too. So the bunker and the hatch are definitely a similarity between Dark and Lost. Number 2, they both involve time travel. Now this seems like a big silly one to put in, but it is true. A parallel between Dark and Lost is that they both have time travel. Now if you gave up on Lost after 2 or 3 seasons, maybe you don't realize it has time travel. But in season 5 of Lost, there is the whole thing went around time travel. So certain members of the group were sent fluctuating through time, and then eventually, when other members like Jack and Son and Kate came back to the island, they settled in the 1970s, and that was a big. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in another point coming up. But that was a big comparison in terms of Dark and Lost that season. So obviously, because it's about time travel, it's already going to draw comparisons. But there's a whole load more in there. So number 2, I'm going to leave it simply so I can go on to more detailed ones later. But number 2 simply is, it was about time travel. Number 3, there's a man who doesn't seem to age. So obviously, in Dark, we have Noah. So in the first season, we see Noah in all multiple different timelines. And we don't know what's going on with him. He seems like he doesn't age. He's ageless. Obviously, we could also think he's traveling through time. That's another possibility. But in Lost, there's a similar character who it's a real mystery how he doesn't age. And that's Richard Alpert. Now, we find out a bit of backstory about Richard. And he came on a slave ship called Black Rock in 1867. And then he went to Jacob, and Jacob is like, sort of the Adam, not quite the Adam, but he's like the light side of the island. He's sort of the god of the island, if you will. And Richard goes to Jacob and actually asks to make him live forever and not age. And he said yes. So Richard actually in Lost doesn't age, but Noah in Dark does. But the comparison I'm making here is that for a time, there's a character who we don't know what's going on in terms of not aging. They're in every time. That's a comparison between Lost, definitely. Lost and Dark, especially if you haven't seen all of Dark yet. If you've just seen the start, definitely. Number 4, the similarity between the God Particle and the Black Smoke Monster. Now, this is just purely an aesthetic one. Like, some of these numbers have to be aesthetic. So when you're watching the show, obviously, the Black Smoke and like the whole idea of these God Particle, dark matter, whatever you want to call it, the idea of this black orb being like floating and like sort of convulsing and being in the air definitely is a comparison with the Black Smoke. Now, I'm talking just visually here. Obviously, we all know the Black Smoke is actually the Man in Black. And the Man in Black is sort of the dark side. As I talked about before, Jacob was the light. The Black Smoke Man was the dark. The Man in Black, actually. And it's actually said he is the incarnation of evil. And if he leaves the island, it will be the end of everything good. Has he left the island now? Is that what 2020 is about? Yeah, anyway. I think that there's a little, maybe thematic comparison there a little bit, is the idea that the God particle is what's causing all this hell on earth in Dark, and he is sort of the incarnation of evil. There's something there. Let me know in the comments if you can draw something else. But it's mostly an aesthetic thing. It's mostly about the look. Number 5. Both shows heavily feature an imposter. So, obviously, throughout Lost, there's a load of characters who pretend to be other characters. Especially Benjamin Linus, for example, pretends to be Henry Gale. But this is more in line, I'm talking about, like when the Man in Black in Season 6 takes the form of John Locke. And sort of infiltrates the group. That really reminds me of when Claudia kills her old self and infiltrates Eva's world. So like that idea of an imposter becoming a huge player in the end game of the TV show is a really big comparison in my opinion, and something that can't go unnoticed. All right, let's get into the messages.
Hey you, yeah, you. Why don't you make a comment and join the conversation?
All right, guys. So as you know, every single week you leave comments, questions, or just you want to give your own take. Whatever you want, you leave it there, and then the next week I'll cover some of the ones that I can pick out. Now I'm here with Ema, as she did her costume episode last week, and she gave us a lot of great insights, and there was a lot of positive feedback in the comments. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Very, very respectful, and Ema's very appreciative of that.
Yeah, I am. I was really pleasantly surprised that anyone cared what I had to say.
Yeah, so thanks very much. But what we're going to do, if you're wondering why the difference in setup here, this is the setup we use for his Dark Materials reviews. So check them out every Monday. Anyway, so we are going to be going through some of the comments from last week, and I thought we'd have Ema here just in case there's any costume ones come up. So, first of all, Ema, comment from Now, they're not all for you, like, there's some for me, but we'll do it together.
Okay.
So, comment from seriously bad, but it's spelled differently, but seriously bad. It's obviously a pun, but I'm not quite getting it. Bartos is the Ross of Dark.
I'm not going to argue with that.
The next line is my favorite. It says, "It can only be he." I can absolutely hear Bartos screaming, "We were on a break." Next comment comes from Alex Bruckner. And Alex says, "Your wife is a natural in front of the camera."
Thank you, Alex. That's very nice.
Conrad, you better watch out, buddy.
I'm going to steal your job, Konrad.
Yeah. Although you've seen Dark, so you can't steal his job.
No, I can't steal his job.
And any show that I would have seen, you would have seen too.
That's true, yeah.
So you literally cannot steal his job.
No, I can't. I can't.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. Next comment comes from Helen O'Grady. And Helen says, "Great vid. Ema had a lot of great insight to share.
Oh, thank you.
I've always wondered about the colours in the show, particularly yellow and red. They're everywhere. The school, the forest, Marta's clothes, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And
Agnes.
And Agnes,
her
yeah.
two main colours.
Yeah, the travellers are all in black/grey colours. Mm-hmm. And then in season 3, the Alt World, there's a bunch of new colours or flipped colours.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
really cool.
Well noted.
I love the idea of bringing Ema on the show has made a lot of people actually just come into the comments and actually let us know that they do think about the costumes and the colours as well.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously previously that we're always thinking about the mystery and the puzzles and the character. Whereas if you actually get a chance to talk about the colours and the costumes, everyone actually has an idea about it, which is really cool.
Yeah, and even you mentioned the travellers there. They're all in their blacks and greys. I mean, I think that's, the statement, you could take it as it's kind of religious.
Uh-huh.
It's like this is it's like, dressed in sort of blacks and whites and greys like priests and nuns. It's kind of a parallel to an organised religion, as it were, which kind of brings in that cult-like idea.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Travellers, yeah.
Well
spotted.
Yeah. And Timo says, "Hi, great insights from you both.
Oh.
Nice to see you covering his Dark Materials." I was covering that every Monday. Great show. Are you planning Q&As as well? Now, I wanted to conclude this one here because I wanted to ask for clarification from Timo. Q&As for this or for his Dark Materials?
I would have assumed that was for his Dark Materials.
Okay, yes. We're not going to do separate episodes, but if you want to ask a question about his Dark Materials, let us know.
Yeah, we're essentially flipping the podcast with his Dark Materials, and that I know what's going to happen, not because I've seen it, but because I've read it.
Yeah,
and you don't.
Exactly.
And
actually, I've already put out a load of theories.
Yeah.
In the first 2 episodes of season 2, that some of them are harebrained, some of them aren't. So if you want to see me on the other side of the Konrad Anthony sort of relationship, well, Ema is like the Anthony and I'm the Konrad in our Dark Materials stuff.
I'm not as good.
I
do my best though.
No, you're doing well. Don't worry. Right, okay. Well, there you go, guys. Let's get back into the final section then.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6. There's a mysterious group in both shows. So in Dark, obviously we have Sigmundus. In Lost, we have the others. The Dharma Initiative, eventually we learn that they are. So, well, you know what I mean. So the others are actually up against the Dharma Initiative as well for quite a long time. But you know what I mean. So the others are this mysterious group, and then also the Dharma Initiative then becomes a very mysterious group in a similar way to Sigmundus being very mysterious. We hear about Sigmundus. There is a main difference to this one though. The idea of this mysterious group actively sort of controlling things and sort of they're the antagonists that we don't really see. The difference is we actually do see Sigmundus a lot earlier than we see the Dharma Initiative / the others. We see Sigmundus very early. So obviously once we get to obviously we got Noah there the whole time, pretty much, and then we also in season 2 straight away get Adam. And then we get Magnus and Francisca back then. Obviously, and then season 3, the whole history of Sigmundus is fully laid out for us. Whereas in Lost, it's a little different. Like in Lost, it's a lot more of a slow burn to get inside the others. I think the first time we see properly inside the others would be in the second season when we sort of get an episode to show us where Michael has been. when Michael goes off to try and save Walt. We get a sort of a story that shows us. But then we even find out, actually, that is a whole charade as well. Like, what they were actually showing Michael wasn't real, and it's sort of behind a veil, and they're living in the actual Dharma Initiative facility. So even then, it's very mysterious in that regard too. But definitely the idea of this mysterious group being out there, sort of as the antagonists against to our main heroes, that's a big comparison to me. Number 7. Some of our heroes are actually members of that group, but in the past. So in Sic Mundus, obviously, we have Adam, Jonas, we have Franziska, Magnus, Bartos. These are all characters that we come to love not Bartos, we don't love him, but we come to love... I'm sorry. We come to love characters in 2020, 2019. They eventually go back in time and become this big bad group, Sic Mundus. Now, in Lost, it's very, very similar. So in Season 5, we have a certain number of characters, like we get Hurley, we have Jin, we have Sawyer, as well as Juliet. They all go back in time, and they eventually settle in 1977, 1974, and then they sort of live there for 3 years, and they live as members of the Dharma Initiative. Now, they never became members of the others, but they were definitely members of the Dharma Initiative. So that idea that in the past, like, you get the pictures and you see the pictures of them in the past, just like they do in Dark a couple of times, like you see the picture of Sic Mundus. You also have the picture of Mikkel in the past, so that's another sort of parallel. So the idea that these members of heroes that we come to know and love actually exist in the past in this other group as well. That's a big parallel. Number 8, big theme of the show is light versus dark. So in Lost, we have Jacob and the Man in Black, and that's a big battle between light and dark. Literally, as I said, he's the incarnation of evil, whereas Jacob is sort of the opposite of that. And then we also have in Dark, we have constant talk about the light and the shadow. The Licht und Schaffen, right? We have constant talk of this light and shadow, light and dark. There's two sides, blah, blah, blah. We sort of, in Dark, it's a little different than that, because at the end of the show, we sort of realize that, yeah, there are these two sides, but Claudia's on her own, and she's figured it all out. So there's kind of three sides, really. There's a grey in the middle, and Claudia has done it. I know she's called the White Devil, but come on. She's the grey in the middle of these two, light and dark, and she's figured it out of how to do it. So it's a bit different than Lost in that regard. In Lost, it's very much put across as light and dark. Very much put across that way. Whereas in Dark, it's more like the characters believe it is like that, but it's not really like that, if you get what I'm saying. Number 9, they both have an elderly woman who explains everything to our heroes. So in Dark, I'll say that first. Obviously, we have Claudia, who at the end, Cluedo Claudia, as I call her, she comes out and she says, I think it was Adam with the rope in the bunker, you know. So she comes out and she sort of ends the game of Cluedo, and she's figured out the third world, and she's the detective, real, you know, just like in Knives Out at the end, you know. So it's real like a whodunit with Claudia. She explains everything. Well, as in Lost, we have a similar character called Eloise Hawking. And Eloise Hawking, although less badass than Claudia, she, especially in an episode, I think it's episode 6 of season 5, she basically takes the characters who've left the island into the lamppost Dharma Initiative station, and she explains everything. Explains how to get back to the island, why, you know, how you can't find the island. She explains a load of stuff. So it's really very similar. She would be the Claudia to that show for me. Number 10. Time is predetermined. Now, again, stop yelling at me. Stop yelling at me. In Dark, is time predetermined? That's the debate. I would say no one would really debate that time is predetermined in the cycle, because we all know that the cycle does exist. Okay? Now, was there one cycle? I've talked about this before. Or was there infinity cycles? I think there was both. So I think that if you have a bootstrap paradox, where, like, you know, for example, Mikkel gets taken back, becomes Jonas's dad, that's a bootstrap paradox, that, because that exists once, it has to exist infinity times. Because if you imagine, by the time if you're in 2020, right, or even if you're in the year after Jonas was born, you have to be in the year after Mikkel was taken. So 2020, right? In 2020, the whole loop of Mikkel being taken back, and then having Jonas, and then Mikkel being taken back, and having Jonas, and Mikkel being taken back, and so Mikkel being taken, the cycle is complete, and him killing himself, that cycle is complete. So if you're living in 2020, which a lot of the characters do at a certain point in the story, in the past, that circle exists in time. So there's no way of saying whether that circle happened once or infinity times. Because if it's in the past, it's going to keep happening. By the time you get to 2020, it's happened endless times. So that's a sort of weird thing that when you talk about endless cycles, you're not necessarily saying that they've just been doing this millions of times. It's talking about the concept of a circle. Okay? A circle has to have infinity sides. It's an endless cycle. So that's what they're talking about. So I think time is predetermined. Okay? I also think that there's proof that time is predetermined because when they're in the tunnel, the light tunnel at the end, Jonas and Marta, they call out to themselves, they see their younger selves, and then they talk about it once they're into the origin world. They talk about, that was you when I was a child. Come on, guys. They were predetermined to be there. That's a bootstrap paradox. How did they see themselves as children if they weren't already in the tunnel? So in my opinion, it's all predetermined to happen. And in Lost, very similar. In Lost, they decide that they're going to go and blow up the hatch before it's built. And this actually causes the incident, which we hear about a lot in Lost. The incident. And the whole time you think that these characters... And now in Lost obviously didn't do it as much as Dark. Dark, nearly every 2 or 3 episodes, has someone trying to change something which doesn't work. Jonas trying to save his dad. Adam trying to kill old Marta with the baby inside her, thinking that's going to work. Didn't work. Noah tries to kill Adam. Doesn't work. So every few episodes, Claudia tries to save Egon. We get a character trying to do something that doesn't work. Well, in Lost, it only happens once. It happens whenever they go to stop the incident. They want to explode the electromagnetic pocket or whatever it is to create so that their plane will never crash because the electromagnetism is what drew the plane into the island. Anyway, they wanted to blow it up, but actually they caused the incident which caused all the problems. So just like in Dark, Lost is predetermined. You cannot change the past because the future already exists. Right, guys, thanks very much for watching. If you want to subscribe on YouTube, if you haven't already, could you please subscribe on audio apps? As well as that, next week we're going to be back with our poll. Next week, the episode is going to be all about me having a chat with my good old mum. It's going to be a great episode. I'm hoping that I can get some hilarious stuff out of her. She hasn't seen the show now in about 3 months, so maybe I'll go and tell her to watch like 2 episodes. Because I'm telling you right now, even if she watches it and then comes to talk to me 10 minutes later, it's still going to be hilarious. Right, guys, so that's me for this week. If you want to get your own suggestion onto the poll, definitely. I will talk about anything you want me to if you give me even £1 as a donation. I have to have some way to sort of cut off the suggestions, because a lot of people suggest things in the comments. I can't put them all on the poll. Having said that, if you suggest something that I really, really like, I will put it on the poll. Right, guys, thanks very much for watching. I've been Origin Anthony James. You've been you. See you in the next cycle.